will be on cards. So I know that all of you came to hear all 8 candidates' ideas and their answers to the questions. And even if you don't agree with them, and that in that spirit, I'm sure that all of you will be very respectful of all the candidates and that we won't have any disruptions. It's fine to applaud after each gives their 3-minute opening, but beyond that, we'd like things to remain quiet. Now, the candidates, you'll have 3 minutes opening, and then once we start the questions, I'm going to start alphabetically from the other end of the table, and then you will have, when we start the questions, a minute to answer, and we will rotate how we start the answers to the questions. So that would mean the first question will be Claudia's, the second one to start, and then we will come on around the group. And you'll have a 2-minute close. And we have a timekeeper. Pat's here in the front. She'll give you a warning when you have 20 seconds left. And then she has a bell. So there's no doubt when your time is up. So I want to introduce all the candidates. And if you can imagine, it's wonderful that we have 8 people that are willing to volunteer their time to help our community. And this is one of the largest groups we've ever had running for the board, regardless of the number of vacancies. And so I want to introduce Gregory Bundrick at the far end, Claudia Daigle, Dan Gilligan, Pam Hanline, Barbara Mendel, Peter Rao, Ann Salzman, and Frank Schober. Gregory, you can begin your 3-minute talk.
The purpose of the Board of Directors is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the association. I have been a social worker for the past 36 years, working with individuals, groups, and community organizations dedicated to that same purpose. I've been on the board for the past 18 months. I want to be on the board to help the community solve community problems. We have an issue that is now confronting the community, but there would be many more problems, including fire, desertification, asphalt, water, and watering communal lands. The problem is not that there are problems. The problem is that expecting otherwise, thinking that having problems is the problem. We have democratic principles and processes in place that will help us solve our problems. We have the principle of common good. We are all working together for the greater benefit of all. We have the principle of justice. We expect everyone to be treated fairly. We want the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But these rights are protected only to the extent that we are willing to ensure the rights of all. We all want the right of equality, which means giving everybody equal choice.
No. Can't hear.
We all want diversity, which means respecting and celebrating our differences. We all want truth. Without truth, there is no trust. We all want popular sovereignty, which means majority rule, but we want to guarantee that the minority is heard, for we never know when we may be part of that minority. I believe that people can leave their well-rehearsed lines behind and engage in meaningful discussion with others that goes toward problem solving. I believe that we can have a conversation where the most important thing is listening, and the most desired outcome is understanding. I believe that people want civility to be our greatest asset, and see divisiveness as our greatest peril. You will never know when you will need your neighbor. I believe that the forces of cohesion are stronger than the forces of polarization that may divide us. I believe at times people may find compassion and even empathy, and from that time we may find creativity and consensus. The first step to problem solving is to make the problem specific. What is the problem about? And then I would ask for the peacemakers, the solution builders.
Thank you, Greg. Claudia?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Claudia Daigle, and I'm a 22-year lot owner in good standing in Eldorado. Good standing simply means your dues are paid up. I first became involved with our ECIA board and management a year ago regarding the misuse of a common acre at the entrance to my neighborhood behind the community center. This interaction with the board motivated me to attend board meetings as well as monthly meetings for other committees. I took the time as an individual resident to go to these meetings in order to be better educated about what's going on behind the scenes in Eldorado. As a board member, I would bring this same dedication to research and information gathering in all matters affecting our community. I believe some of the things that we need to do are, we first need to amend our bylaws to require all candidates running for our board and our candidates running to be formal committee members be vetted to prove each is a full lot owner. I believe this must be an absolute requirement as we are handing power over to people, and we must at least know that they have as much at stake in the decisions they make as we do. I'm pro-covenants all the way. We are a subdivision community. All subdivisions come with governing documents and restrictive covenants that run with the land. Our covenants speak, and I quote, of protecting the natural beauty and environment of the community of Eldorado at Santa Fe, providing an attractive rural setting for residential neighborhoods and home sites, and preserving property values. And that property owners agree for and among themselves that these qualities must be preserved for all present and future residents. As a board member, I would strongly support and protect our covenants as they now stand. Pro-members' rights. If anyone wants to try and amend our covenants, they have a right to do so if they are a lot owner. There are 2,780 lot owners in Eldorado, and we all signed on and agreed to our governing documents for the benefit of us all, which gives each of us lot owners the power of their vote. Again, as a board member, I would strongly support and protect our covenants. Pro-transparency. I am an avid supporter of transparency. We need all lot owners to have their eyes open. It is when apathy sets in that trouble sneaks in, as we are experiencing now. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Claudia. Dan?
Thank you all for coming tonight. I believe that residents here should have the same rights as Americans everywhere to life, liberty, and their own version of the pursuit of happiness. And the covenants should never be misused to promote fear, turn neighbors against each other, or limit anyone's life choices or restrict their freedom. Our quality of life and our property values are enhanced when we settle our differences with respect, stick to the real issues, and maintain our community relationships, and put people's rights first and property rights second. I support our covenants totally, 100%. And I support the community groups that have grown up here in Eldorado around the issues of sustainability in recent years. I define sustainability as protection of our environment and stewardship of our resources. I promote home-scale appropriate food growing so that one does as little harm as possible to the earth while providing for people. I've participated in the founding of the community garden, almost a full-time job at times, the Sustainable Eldorado Residents Alliance, known as SIRAC. I've been a local organizer and volunteer for Beneficial Farms, CSA. I organized the solar home tours for the New Mexico Solar Energy Association for several years. I've made many renewable energy projects in my own house. For 2 years, I was in the Food Network, which no longer exists, and currently I'm a proud member of the Sustainable Planning and Education Committee. All of these sustainable projects all started and continued by Eldorado people, grassroots people. In short, working for sustainability and community in my own life and exploring what that means to me is central. So what does sustainability look like right here in Eldorado? Well, it looks like Joe Eigner, I know he's here, and his recycling committee, providing recycling bins right down the hall here for everything, including used batteries and tennis shoes. It looks like Dan Drobness, who was honored by the Water Rights Group, part of SIRAC, for his water catchment system. It looks like Barb Kastner, who has worked tirelessly for the school and the community garden to make a structure that we can work together and have that community and that sustainability in the garden. It looks like Carol Taschel, who hosted a native plant identification hike for our food network at one time. Carol's wisdom in knowing local plants was beautiful and enriching. It looks like Dan Coventry and all the members of SIRAC as they provide the popular annual pancake breakfast now, which used to be done by the VRA, and the flea market, which is coming up soon. It looks like community working together for the common good.
Thank you, Gina. Pam, you're next.
I am Pam Penline, and I'm not going to repeat what was in the candidates thing. I've worked on many different things involving our community, the bigger community, same thing, even recycling at those hours. I believe I can be a responsible and responsive worker to anybody, and we can maintain our good quality of life and even improve it. And that would be the thing. This is something that we love to do. We want to keep our things like our bike path and all of our amenities in good condition. And that may bring up some financial issues in the near term future. The bike path, for instance, needs some repairs, and those are very expensive. But we can deal with them. And I also want to be sure that via using everything we have that we can, that we'll be able to have a beautiful, desirable place to live. And that means everybody likes it. But I'm going to come up with the chickens. Nobody's mentioned it. I think if we want chickens, we should have chickens. But that means that we should have a vote on the covenants, and half the people plus one in Eldorado should want chickens. And then I think that would be wonderful. But I have another solution that I think would make more people happy. Wouldn't hurt anybody, wouldn't take off the foldy rods, etc. I'd love to do it, either at the community garden or via the ECIA. Let's have a community goat pen. Let's have a community chicken pen. Let's make everybody happy. I think that would really serve our community in a way that we're becoming separate. This would serve us together. And other than that, that's all I have to say. I happen to be in the feed bin this morning. They sell chickens, they sell chicken food, and they happen to have a very interesting flyer, which is informative, not pro or con chicken, that's relative whether you have chicken or eat eggs. So I brought a few, and if you need more, maybe we'll get them available at the ECIA.
Thank you, Pam. Barbara?
I'm Barbara Mandel, and what I see for our community is a couple of issues that are going to shape how our community is for the coming 5 to 10 years. The first one, and I think the biggest one, is that, I'm going to have to that we're now in District 50. Okay, and, and Brian Egoff is no longer our representative. And this is 50, 4 counties, we're at the top. There are 4 candidates running for this position. I think it would behoove ECIA and this community to have an open forum, introduce the candidates to the people. We need to build bridges and make friends. Second, and I'm going to direct this right to the exotic pets, I wrote an article in the New Mexican in November, and I'd like to follow up. I listed many health issues that are associated with keeping poultry. And I'd like to read something from the state of New Mexico. Livestock are listed as all domestic or domesticated animals that are used or raised on a farm or ranch. They specify the animals: horses, asses, mules, cattle, sheep, goats, swine, bison, poultry, and several other animals. But they exclude canine or feline animals. Secondly on here, wherever I go on websites or agricultural websites at universities, I find 3 requirements for anybody who wants to have chickens. And this is from the University of Florida. The first is vaccinations. The second is strict sanitation. And the third is biosecurity. And they say that all of this is essential. I haven't heard anybody talk about these issues. Nice to have chickens, but how are we going to meet those requirements? And last, I'd like to challenge the board to use the democratic process. Let the people of the community decide how we want our community to be in the future. Don't be deciding that for us. Obviously, there's enough divisiveness in the community that this is something that all of us should decide. Thank you.
Can I take 1 second to point out, because Barbara brought it up, that my name is Stephen Easley, and I am a candidate for House District 50. I live in Eldorado, I'm here tonight.
Dear your man.
I first came to familiar with Eldorado area.
Well, sir.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
I first became familiar with the Eldorado area of Santa Fe in 1947. And I came here to go to camp. It was run by Ernest Thompson Seton. The camp was located on what is now known as Seton Village. I attended the camp again in the summer of '39. The camper, I had the opportunity to ride horseback, and explore all over the area, and now become known as Eldorado. So you can see that I've been familiar with the area and the beauty of this we have. Many years ago, later, after I been married and we were trying to decide where to retire, we decided to send him at the interest. He had just returned from a 2-month project for USAID in Zambia, Africa, where I worked with local residents and organized small businesses. At the suggestion of retiring to Santa Fe, Marianne said, if I can handle Zambia, Africa, I can certainly handle Santa Fe. So let's go. We sold our house in Newport Beach, California, bought a home here in Eldorado, and have been moved to our new location. We've been here for almost 10 years now, and we love every minute of it and never look back. when 2 openings came available on the ECIA board, I decided to throw my hat in the ring in hopes that I might be able to participate in ensuring that Eldorado retain its unusual unique and open spaces and vistas for future generations to come. I feel that my experience in running and planning businesses, participating in as president of the community swimming club in Northern California, where I was had a similar resident home and operated. Well, anyway, I think the experience that I gained in both my planning and with my application, certainly valuable to my application. Thank you very much.
My name is Ann Salzman. I've lived in Eldorado for 10 years. And I'm running for the board not because of any particular issue. I've been on school boards as a president and as a member. I also was on the board of my homeowners association in Phoenix. And I feel like what's important on a board is somebody who doesn't come with a particular axe to grind or issue that they have taken one side or the other. I think what I want in a board member, and I now work for a board as a school principal, my bosses are my board, I need them to listen to me, to listen to issues with an open mind, and then to, with great consideration and thoughtfulness and respect for one another, decide what is the right answer or what is the right direction to go. I moved here, my husband David, because I grew up in the Southwest. I grew up in Sedona, Arizona, and this land for me is home. So I think if anything that I would come into this with, it's really the desire to protect the beauty of Eldorado and our natural preserve, and to deal with any issues that come up by expecting and acting in a way that's respectful to other people, no matter what their opinion is. So I'm running not because I have any particular issue to have chickens or not have chickens or anything else. Somebody today at work said to me, my gosh, Eldorado's become a laughing stock of all this. And that made me really sad because I think it's probably an important issue, but the laughing stock part is about the way we treat each other. And so I'm running because I don't think that's the right way to do it, and that we can resolve this with respect and understanding for one another.
Thank you, Ann. Frank?
It's great to be here this evening. Great to be here this evening. I've been a volunteer in ECIA for 12 years. I served 4 or 5 years on the board already. I now work as chairman of the information committee, and we publish the Vistas, which I think is probably one of the best newsletters that I've seen anytime, anywhere. We also do a website, so I think it's helped unify the community. There is a form, the Greeks had many different descriptions of governments: aristocracy, oligarchy, democracy. They were worried about something called the kakocracy. That's government by the loudest and the noisiest. We can't have that. We've got to take votes, and I am in favor of anything the community wants to do, provided that they take a vote on it. And you can go so far with consensus. On the information committee, we work in consensus all the time. I don't think we've ever taken a vote. Go by consensus. At some point, leadership has to come up to the forefront and take a vote. So on the chicken issue, let's see what people want to do and go from there. Politics. The propensity for Eldoradans to vote is about 70%. No candidate can win for county-wide office without our getting behind it. We need to get behind our issues politically The board should ask the county commissioner of this area to come to one meeting every other month and talk about issues that concern us so that we can have a voice. Same with the sheriff. We need a substation out here. Absolutely. I told my wife somebody's trying to get in the house, call 911 and say you're having trouble breathing because you'll get an EMT there in 5 minutes. The sheriff will come out in 45 minutes and check your body. I am a conservative for conservation. It's a very small group. We meet in a phone booth in Laney. I have a car that gets 38 miles per gallon. I have triple pane windows. I'm putting aero lens on my skylights. And however, I belong to Ducks Unlimited. But they do a hell of a lot for water issues in New Mexico. I think even more than the Sierra Club. So there are some conservatives with their right-minded ideas. And I ask you to vote for me because I'll get stuff done.
Thank you, Frank. We'll go to the questions now. And if anyone hasn't had an opportunity to fill out a card for a question, our workers in the back, Marilyn and Deanna, will be happy to pass out a card for you to write a question. And they'll also collect them from you and get them up here. Okay, the first question I have is, thank you for agreeing to serve on the ECIA Board of Directors. Do you think you will have the time and energy to carry out the duties of a director? And I'm going to start with Claudia, and then we'll work this way, and then go back to Greg at the end.
Well, I absolutely do think I'll have the time and energy, as I've been attending 4 committee meetings a month and board meetings, and enjoying every minute of it. I've met so many members in Eldorado, and I've learned a lot about what's been going on behind the scenes and what's involved, and the hike bike trails. Oh my God, that's the reason why our assessment is going on, is the hike bike trails. We have 13 miles of trails that many of those miles need new asphalt, and we're in the process in the Facility and Grounds Committee on Padres. They're going to be doing several small sections of the really poor areas of the hike bike trail in some new methods, new toppings. There's one that's called rhino snot. Gee, you could talk about that. And base course. And we're going to try some different methods that might work as well and be a little bit less expensive. Thank you.
So this gets to why I'm running for the board. I believe I have the interests of Eldorado at heart. I have the common sense needed to make good decisions for this community. I have the maturity to see divisive elements as they are and not be swayed from my own core beliefs of fiscal responsibility, sustainable land, water, environmental management, and care of people through supportive covenants. I have the strength that comes from years of active involvement in community groups, and people call me level-headed. I think that's a good thing. I definitely have time. I'm retired. I'm going to have to drop back on some of my other Eldorado volunteer duties to serve on the board, but definitely.
I definitely have time. I wouldn't have hat into the ring because it wouldn't make sense. I certainly am aware of how much time it takes to be on the board. I am on the information committee. I was very involved for 6 years in a group which oversees peanut owners. And that has recently restricted to only a 6-year period. So I now have that slot open, and I think I can serve in a responsible way that will help everybody.
I'm retired, 28 years in the Air Force, and as an executive officer, my job consisted of keeping the peace for my colonel with all of the lieutenant colonels and all of the politics that goes on tact. You can't do the job successfully without having tact and being able to get people have consensus on issues. Time, yes, I have the time. I was a single parent, had my daughter, and I taught in the evening, and somehow I managed to balance all of this out. So time is not an issue. I'm pretty good time management.
Not doing it, maybe experience.
Louder, please.
I had my own businesses in London. It takes a lot of time. I do it. Tired. Okay, I would like to do the towns as available and
Yes, I have the energy and the time to do this. I'm definitely working full-time still, but I think always in my life, the things that I've had energy for and interest in, it's not an issue of not having enough time to make the time for those things that are important. Eldorado as a community is really important to me, and being part of an organization that really learns to resolve issues in a way that I wish for the whole world to resolve its issues. It's something that's really important to me. It's something I practice every day as being a principal in school. So yes, I'm going to spend evenings with the board.
If you want something done, always ask a busy person. I always found people who never have the time are worthless. You have to be busy in order to make the time, I found. One other thing, I'm a consultant for a company, but I will have time to serve on the board. But I would urge the board to stick to its knitting. And that means be concerned with covenants, be concerned with amenities, and be very concerned before you get variances that are going to make things worse. You don't want to turn out like La Cienega, because La Cienega started with all kinds of covenants. They made exceptions. Go look at them now. Tires on the roof, cars up on blocks. We would be that way.
Well, I think you're in so time is on my side. Yes, it is. I am on the board now. I go to board meetings on third Thursdays of each month. There's a work meeting on the third Monday of each month. All are welcome to attend. The board, myself, we welcome public comment. So yes, I have the time now, and I will have the time in the future.
The next question is, as a board member, will you seek advice from the standing committees on issues that fall squarely in a given committee's area of responsibility? And how much weight and consideration will you assign to their guidance and direction? This time, we'll start with Jay.
That's a good question, and I would say that it would be something that as a board member, I would absolutely welcome the study time that the various groups can put into issues and save the board time that they're not going to have time to do every single issue from the ground up. And I would, the reports from the committees are not binding, they're just study reports, so I would take the information in, study it, and decide depending on the issue. I wouldn't have one answer to that. It would depend on the issue and depend on what the report, how much value that report made. Certainly would consider that.
Yeah, headline again. I'm fully aware of how much information and expertise is available through the committees. And those committees know so much more than the board members because they really get into individual issues and individual areas, depending on what they are, architecture, finance, etc. And I believe in almost every case, their recommendation should be really considered and gone with. But the board should be its own self and have a chance to look at that and give their own opinion. But in general, committees do amazing. I think we don't appreciate how much they do.
Barbara Mandel. I don't think ECIA could exist without its committees. These are people who volunteer, who do almost all of the work and the studies for the board to consider. Yes, we have to consider what the committees bring to us. The board, as an independent entity, studies those recommendations and comes to a consensus. But the committees have more knowledge than anyone on the committee, on the board itself. And so their recommendations should always be taken very, very seriously.
I think that organizations can't operate without a committee, without having committees that handle certain aspects of the operation of the organization. Certainly seek to help any committee members and the standing committees that we have in the ECIA to make sure that it gets carried out and that the commission is passed on to the rest of the board.
I don't think that I'm going to say anything any different. I think probably something I learned from the first time I was head of school till now was that I can't do it all by myself, and I don't know everything. So I think it's really important when you have committees and people that are volunteering from the community to listen carefully to what they have to say and to take it very seriously.
You wouldn't take the architecture.
What is interesting about Eldorado, it could be called a commentocracy because it is they're not advisory committees. These are working committees. An information committee, we put together the vistas, manage the website. The architectural committee passes on these things and makes recommendations to the board, but they go out and look at somebody's variance stage. We have a group of committees that are working committees. We need more volunteers. There's a book called Bowling Alone where people are just by themselves. We need more people to act socially and help out our committees, and I would work to do that.
Yeah, democracy has been defined as getting committees to work. And I think the role of the board is to support the committees. They do have an up-close and longitudinal view of a given problem. We want to support our staff. The board wants to facilitate the staff to do its job, and we want to facilitate and enable the committee to do their jobs. There's no point in having a board duplicate what the committee does. We want to enable them to do as much as possible. We want to make sure they have the resources and take seriously the information that they provide. The role of the board is to essentially provide a kind of checks and balances to ensure the quality of the report and to, as I say, facilitate the role of the committee.
I agree with pretty much everything everybody said. I would work more closely with the committees. I really enjoy working with the committees. There's a lot of wonderful people and you learn a lot. And if the board worked closer with the committees, I think it would also save time and get more done. Because this way you wouldn't have the committee bringing to the board a result and then the board saying, well, we'd like to see this changed. You could actually actively work with the committee to come up with the proper conclusion. So I
Thank all of you. We'll go on to the next question. Please comment on the following sustainable activities as to whether they should be supported by the ECIA. Number 1 is solar farms, 2 is improved public transportation, and 3, improved bike lanes, paths, places for bicycles. And we'll start with Pam.
Yeah, I think solar farms probably comes partly under the issue of architecture committee. I believe the architecture committee feels that this is something we should be doing and that we should do it in a responsible way. We're not going to put up ugly things, and if we do put up something ugly, we're going to screen it so we're not being ugly to our neighbors. I think everybody agrees that we want to be that kind of community. In the past, Eldorado was known as one of the first solar communities in New Mexico because of the way we sited our houses and did our work. Public transportation actually comes out of the county. I think we've made good progress there. We do have some transportation now. So I think, again, we can work with the county, but I don't believe that's really the board's job. I think it's the community stuff, and the ECI can facilitate. The bike lanes, of course, we all want those. That's one of our best amenities, even if they are expensive to maintain. And we're going to do it.
I'm going to start in reverse order because that's how my memory works. The bike lanes are a great idea. There's only so much money, so many resources to go around. That's a great resource to maintain. We have so many bike riders here. I hate to see that go into disrepair. Transportation, as was pointed out, is not something that the board can really do. It's the county. And so that's, again, making friends, building bridges, working with the county. And lastly, firstly was the solar farm. One of the things to think about for the future is maybe instead of having individual solar houses, is to consider having a solar community where a number of houses can live off of solar.
I think that transportation is something that is very needed in the Eldorado area. We will tie it together, residents of Eldorado and Santa Fe. Our population older and less time, we do less timing as time goes on, and more we reform transportation. I don't mean for it to be a handout system, we know that the cooperation with the residents and the users of the system. I'm in favor of transportation in the area.
I would agree with what Pam said. I think this was started as a solar community, and again, it's something I'm in support of, and I think what's important, I think Pam said this too, is that we try to work so that we make that work between neighbors. I think that's the most important part of it, and I think the architectural committee's done a really good job of trying to make that happen. Public transportation, I would agree. I don't think it's something that the board here has a lot to do with, but I'm wondering if there couldn't be a better job done of facilitating ride sharing between people. It's something we do in a school where we try to connect people from Eldorado who are trying to all drive their kids into the city so that they can potentially share rides, and I think that could work for people other than in schools. And as everybody else, I think the bike paths are a great idea, are used a lot, and it's really important to have them in good repair.
I think we've got some other priorities we haven't talked enough about. The solar is fine and the bike paths are fine. We need an emergency plan for this community. We need to work with the fire department and make it happen. Because we could have something like a power outage caused by either terrorism or just something else. Somebody gets into the power system And if we're without power for 3 days, we have no water. So we need to work, ECIA needs to work with the fire department, work with the community. I think that's priority one. These other things are good. A lot of them are not our specific issues.
I don't believe the technology for a solar farm exists. The technology for a solar farm doesn't exist per se, but I mean I think it's an idea that has been circulated. But or in terms of how is it benefiting off a quadrant of a solar device, that technology I don't think is available yet either. In terms of bike trail, I mean the issue goes to cost, asphalt-based course, and that also goes into the issue of your assessment. So in terms of repair of the bike path, we need to consider that carefully. I think that's where we need the input of the community in terms of what the community wants. In terms of public transportation, I'm here for that. In terms of public transportation, I think the price of fuel is maybe driving that question. And so I think we need to work with our county and state legislatures in terms of transportation options.
Well, as far as public transportation goes, I'm all for working with the county for the bus to be, perhaps maybe to go through Eldorado, to make the bus more accessible in the town. That would be a great idea. Solar farms, I don't see that for Eldorado, I see that for PNM. I would also like to revisit some of the new rules that have been enforced recently for solar on some people's homes, because I think they were mistakes myself. So there was one on Verano Loop that's the size of a drive-in theater, and 2 homes, the property values had to have been harmed by the size of that thing, because when they open the curtain to their house, all they see is this huge solar tracker. And I don't see any problem, of course, we have the solar law right now in the state. I don't see any problem with having solar, but only for the size, to accommodate the size of your home, not too big enough so that you can get a check from PNM. We need to be more thoughtful of our neighbors.
Well, on the solar issues, I'm a huge supporter of solar energy. We, here in New Mexico, we have the highest incidence of solar radiation, the highest time of day that solar is effective. And because of our high altitude, we often get more power out of the panels than the solar companies actually say that you can possibly get. Most places have to cut down the recommendation a significant degree. Here, we get to get more out of it. It's a tremendous resource. We are the center of solar opportunity, and I think we should definitely utilize it to the max. As far as a solar farm, there's PNM issues and political issues that would make it very difficult to do. There have been some discussions here at La Tienda about setting up a community solar array here that would shift the energy into the neighborhood. I think that would be excellent. On public transportation, of course, it would be nice if the bus ran more often. And I provide lanes too.
I'm going to combine 2 of the next questions. And the first one is, what is your position on allowing or not allowing hens as pets? The second one, would it be possible to have a communal area for chickens and goats? So I'd like for you to combine those 2. And I guess we start with Barbara.
I listed before that hens and goats are under the purview of wildlife, and hens and goats bring with them some huge bio risks. If we had a hen house, I wouldn't want it next to the horses because they carry swine encephalitis, but but we still have to make sure vaccinations, biosecurity, and strict cleanliness. On goats, no, goats really smell and require more land, and our land is degrading as it is, and I don't want to see any more degradation than is going on.
I've lived in places where we have had animals, chickens, ducks, dogs, cats, girls, and it can be done, but if it's going to cause problems for some of the residents, then I think it shouldn't be done. I think that animals, if you have animals, you need to have an area for them. You can have, like, for a horse, you need 5 acres per horse. You should have some other equation perhaps for chickens. If you're going to have sufficient amount of land around them so that they clean, have spelling problem. I guess I'm too much.
I said before that I really have not taken a stand on this. I feel like I've heard people on both sides very strongly about their feelings. But I think as a board member, what I would want to do is listen to everyone, take that into account, make a decision about what's the right thing for the community. That could be that people have chickens. It could be that there's a communal area. It could be that we take a vote in terms of the covenants. But I'm running because, honestly, I don't have one way or the other, personally, an opinion about this.
When I first moved to Eldorado, one of my neighbors had chickens, one of which was a rooster that awakened us at 3 in the morning. Now I have found that there are roosters that have been developed that are crowless. And somebody tells me that it's important to have a rooster amongst the hens because they keep order. So I don't have any particular view about this, but I do say, take a vote. Take a vote. Take a vote.
I think what's most important is that we not let this become a wedge issue between us. I have not taken a position on the issue of chickens. Goats are not in consideration right now, if they ever really were. But I think that this will probably end up being considered by the community and will be the covenant vote. So I personally will not, we have problems taking care of house plants. So in terms of taking care of chickens, I personally probably would never have chickens, you know. But definitely I want this to go before the community. But I think it's real important that we never let any issue, particularly a hen, divide us.
We live in a subdivision. You know, this whole issue could have been a lot easier to get through, I think, from the get-go. From the get-go, if our board, from the very beginning, when I first discovered it, that they wanted to pass guidelines, if you had just admitted, this is what we want to do, and we're going to have a covenant vote at the end, and we'll have a long discussion, but in the end, we're going to take this to our community for a covenant vote. I'm still not assured that our board is going to do that. But there are 2,780 lot owners in Eldorado who purchased our property in a subdivision with covenants that strictly say no animals, birds, or poultry will be allowed on any lot. The only way that you can amend them, according to our covenants, is to take it to a full mail-in ballot to each lot owner to decide. That's the only fair way this can be decided. The community says yes, I'll live with it. The community says no, they live with it.
Actually, the covenant itself says no animal, birds, or poultry are allowed. So listen to that carefully, no animals, birds, or poultry. It does not say no animals, or it does not say animals, but no birds and poultry. It says no animals, birds, and poultry. Animals, birds, and poultry are all treated exactly the same in our covenant. And personally, I think that I do not support livestock, I do not support goats, I do not support anything that cannot follow the rest of the covenants, which means reasonable numbers, not for commercial purpose, no sight, no sound, no smell. So whatever animal, bird, or poultry is allowed has to be kept as a pet and has to follow all those requirements. I think hens very easily fit all those requirements. Roosters would not fit the no sound requirements, so they would not be allowed. Hens are a beautiful part of a home-sustaining garden. They should be limited in reasonable numbers.
I believe the community should decide if we should have chickens overall. Although I do have a little sideline on chickens and pets. You were at the first meeting about chickens. Someone showed a picture of a chicken with a diaper. I think if you wanted your kids to grow up and know what it's like to have a chicken, and you put a diaper on it, and you kept it in your house, that would be fine with me. I wouldn't care. I personally have a friend who's a member of a goat community that serves 14 to 20 people with only 4 goats, and it works really well. So I think that's an option for both chickens or goats that should be explored. And that's how I feel about fish.
Thank you all. I have one more question now that vaguely relates to the last two. How will you work to heal the division or polarization that has come to our community over the chicken issue, regardless of how it is resolved? Dieter, you're first.
I was thinking that the chickens and the pests of that kind will possibly be taken care of by the coyotes in the area. I'm in favor of an election or a vote of some kind, majority
I think actually it's a great question. And I think it can be hard to do, to heal a community where there has been a lot of division. And I think I would have to think about how I might do that. I think part of it has to be bringing people together. And maybe we have to, as a community or as a board, think about better ways to bring neighbors together and groups together. I know just having a neighborhood watch in our community was important. We got together and there were people that really, we don't see each other very often. So I think those kinds of things might be helpful. I think also maybe the board talking more about what are good ways for communities to deal with issues that are divisive, because this won't be the first one, it won't be the last. So we may have to come up with some rules for that and how we speak to each other and how we listen.
I think we could do some things to get people together. And one of them is to have some influence on our senior center. I think that senior center ought to be a senior and youth center together. That would bring people together. I think we've got to do some things that bring more people as volunteers. I think we have to work maybe with the Vistas and the website on increasing civility, because it's becoming a rare thing in America today. And about the lady who wrote that she wrote to the New Mexican, everybody in Eldorado was crazy. I don't think that's right. I think it's closer to 30%.
In response to the question, this is the time for a social worker. I think that there are going to be other divisive issues that are going to confront us in the future. I think that, last year I got on the board, we were thinking that, nobody was coming to board meetings, and we were questioning our own relevancy. Now we have people coming to board meetings. Maybe we can work together over a hen. Maybe there's something to learn from this. that we need to encourage community participation, reach out, and use this as a way to address other issues that come before us.
Well, I think there's a lot we can learn from this issue. And the first is to respect individual rights. And when people purchase their property somewhere with covenants that give them the right to vote, to amend them, we need to respect those people's right to do that and not try and circumvent those covenants and find ways to get around, which is something that happened. I look forward to taking a covenant vote on this issue and coming up with a final decision. And I will be happy to accept whatever my community decides as a whole, one way or the other, and then we'll move on.
I think that if everyone gets to go through a fair process and gets a chance to vote on it and gets a chance to express their opinions, then I think the rift will be somewhat solved by that at the end of the process. We're right at the beginning of the process now. We've had a couple of chicken forums where people were expressive. We've had board meetings where up to 50 people came and expressed their opinions. So that part has gone well. The next one is going to be the survey. After that will be the covenant vote. And I think that will help tremendously. I do hope that Eldorado will learn to live and let live and be, accept that our neighbors are not going to be just like us, and that's okay. Also in that letter that Frank mentioned, I think I was referred to as a 70s style commune person. I kind of resented that. I mean, I'm a 60s style.
There's been an awful lot of noise about these issues. I do actually think, and I don't have a number, that the number of people that are really in favor of kids, I mean, really in favor of it, is pretty small. And I think we can all learn to live together. But we had a time when we really had to learn to live together in 1998, 1999. The community was split over incorporation. It was nasty. It was, you were violently one side or the other, and it was very, very much split. You know what? Nobody hardly remembers that anymore. Because we did learn to live with each other, and we still like each other.
I think that after a covenant vote is taken, that my sense is that that's what people want, and people are willing to live with whatever the outcome is. And after that, building trust, working together on other issues, like the new district that we're in, and making sure that we're represented. I think that's going to bring people together. As you said, this issue about chickens will fall to the back and won't be important.
Thank all of you. The next question is, what are your views on water conservation? We'll change the subject completely.
Well, my husband's laughing because in my house, when my son brought home a girlfriend and she took a 14-minute shower, I spoke to him later and said, you need to tell her she can't do that in this house. So I feel pretty strongly about water conservation, personally and as a community, and I think it has to start with each person individually, and it also has to start with what we teach our children. We haven't talked a lot about our school here, but I do believe that there are many ways we can support the school, including working with these kids on recycling. My school is located at the community college. We're in 4 offices, 1 big room, and we have a bucket right as you come in the door where the kids put glass bottles. We recycle all the plastic. We actually take it out of the trash cans to teach them that it's not okay to throw away. So I feel pretty strongly about it personally, and would be happy to be part of doing more to get our community involved in even more water recycling and care for the water than we have right now.
We have a great water district. I put little things in people's mailboxes when we had an election to take over our own water future here in Eldorado. I think it's working well. There's something I'd like you to, if you can look on the internet, it's called Waterbox, Waterbox XXEN. It's a thing being developed that would help trees, plant trees. It develops a taproot that is better than what we do when we bring in trees. We could change a lot of our climate here using trees, getting more trees. Look up Waterbox. I'd like to get our own water district interested in it, because I think we could do some things. Besides saving, we could do some technological things. It's being done in China today. It's being done in the Middle East. It will change the climate. It will make a difference.
As Frank pointed out, we do have the water board, and they do have a conservation committee. But the conservation committee is not very well attended. I think that I know of 2 people that started to try and populate that, and I think it's essential that we work closely with our water district. I think there's a plan to drill another well. I also think that in terms of the ECIA, probably can have closer contact with the water district. We attend their meetings and we ask for regular reports from the water district. So there's closer coordination. Thank you.
As far as water conservation goes, I'm conserving at my house all the time. I don't really know a whole lot about board connected with water conservation, except in discussing this new baseball field that we're working on that's very exciting. We're going to be planting some trees, and we're talking about 1 acre-foot. That's all we've got. And I believe is that one month's worth? 70. So it's not a whole lot, but we're going to squeeze a lot out of it. And I know Pam can talk about it because she and Dan have the in-ground cistern, which I'm envious of. I would love to get one of those. And I have all the aerators on my faucets in my showers, and I've heard the water is going to be going up again this summer. So that's all I can.
So 2 comments. One, I'm working with the school garden, to do some water conservation projects this year with water conservation. We've got some plans to do some, they're called wicking beds. I also heard of the water box idea that Frank was talking about. Looks very good. But an issue that's going to come up soon that's going to be real serious is the Buckland diversion project, and whether or not we will allow the Buckland well water from Santa Fe to come to Eldorado. It would be an additional source of water for us. It would be very expensive. And then there's very big concerns about the nuclear waste drainage that possibly goes into that water. So that would be something I would want a real serious committee set up that is knowledgeable, that can guide us through that. Could be a very big issue.
Yes, I do live in that house and won the award for being so water conservative. But it's something that many people can add on to any house with a septic tank. It's not necessarily the cheapest item, but you can take all of the water from your septic tank and recycle it and use it in your garden. Everybody can do that, assuming you can afford to pay the bill. But I think everybody should do everything they can. If they can't do that, let's at least get water barrels. Let's educate people. Let's do everything that makes sense. I personally think the Buckland diversion project is not a problem. I have worked on it, worked with the Los Alamos people on it. The big issue here is the fact that there is this other water line. It's not so much where the water comes from. It's what's going to happen to it as it goes through. What do we get? How does it cost us to keep going and stop, etc. But conservation of water, the next wars are going to be over water, not oil.
We moved here from the Mojave Desert in 2005, lived there from 1990, so that from 1990 to 2005. So water conservation is something that my daughter grew up with, and I feel very, very strongly with. I worked for the water board the first 5 years I was here. And the water board, this is a great water board. They have a conservation plan. They're willing to work with the community. And if you want to spend, I think it's $75 where you can have a little meter right on your refrigerator that tells you exactly how much water you're using. So you always know whether you're conserving well or not.
Conservation is certainly an important issue. The world today, the idea that water is going to be changed from countries are going to fight over is demonstrated by the fact that the Dutch company wanted to acquire a water system than we acquired it. And however the Dutch company deals with the water, the water is a very, very important part in the conserve on it, use of it, and the committee since that is doing that very well.
Thank you all. The next one will change subjects now, and what do you think the ECIA board can do to help bring our dirt surface roads up to a minimum standard of all weather-based course?
First, the answer is political. We have got to work together with other agencies. We've got to work with real estate people. We've got to work and put pressure on the county to get our roads improved. Some of our roads are so bad they should be renamed Brokeback Road. Very bad. And the bar ditches are out of shape. And I know there's personal requirements, individual requirements. We've got to do something about our roads. And I would say the ECIA should have a monthly meeting with our commissioner and the person in charge of the environment in the county. And let's keep pushing for better roads here.
I was surprised, with the sort of resources that the county has in terms of actually equipment to work on the roads. We last lived in California where there's much more equipment and much more bureaucracy to do those kind of things. I think Liz Stefanik's is working, is real cooperative and real accessible to our community. Most recently, if I'm not mistaken, the Representative Eagolf was able to obtain some funding for us to work on our roads. Unfortunately, that was vetoed by our governor. So I think that we need to continue to support our representatives and advocate with our governor to release maybe not those funds, but future funds that we definitely need out here in Eldorado.
I'm reading in the paper, I know it's very political, and other than that, I really don't know a whole lot about it.
I'm going to kind of echo that. I have not studied it much. I'm on Vista Grande myself, and I can say that a paved road is not all good. People go by at 70 miles an hour past your house. So I'm going to pass.
Well, we're all saying it's not the ECIA's responsibility to grade your road, and it's very expensive to maintain roads. Just look at the bike lane. We can only work with the county. We've been successful, and up through state government, even up to get maybe matching grants from other places. But we have to work through the process. We cannot solve it through the ECIA or any one individual unit out here in Eldorado. We can together send letters, et cetera, to all their electors. It's a political process.
One of the things on the road that I live on Cameron Road, and a small portion of it was a different kind of base course was put down, and that was several years ago. It was a test base course, and they come every so often and they take a core out of it, and it's wonderful. It hasn't degraded, And this is with people who go way too fast. And when you leave that part that was base course, and the rest is just dirt and mud when it rains. And so, again, what we hear is building bridges, making friends, using the political process to try and get the county. I pay county taxes, you pay county taxes. Let's get the county to do our roads and use this new base course, that whatever it is, I think this worked really, really well.
I know very little about how the roads are taken care of out here, except that occasionally rain comes on, streets are closed, folks are walking around. I think that county probably owns some its own work. We pay taxes on it, and all the areas that we need, we should put some money into. The thing is to store and go out and roads.
I think when you work in schools, you realize that you have a group of people who can all participate in the political process and put pressure where you need to. So my sense is that the board needs to be in close touch with the politicians and then be able to pull together everybody in the community. Potentially the way we do it in schools is by sending out an email saying, here's what we need to ask for, here's where you need to send it. It's either an email or it's a letter. When you hear from 2,000 people, somebody listens. And I think that's probably the only way that we as a group and as a board can help solve some of the problems with the roads. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we'll close the questions at this point. If I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. Hopefully there'll be some time afterward if the candidates will stay around for a few minutes and you can talk to them individually. So we're going to give each of them time to give a closing statement of 2 minutes or so, and we'll start with Craig.
I know if there's a representative from the New Mexican, I'd like to really give your story tonight. A very clever group of people, well-educated, thoughtful, and very articulate tonight. I'd work with any of these guys. They do good work. I think we've got a great community. It may be one of the greatest communities in the U.S. When we first moved here, Fred Rasnick told me a story. He was selling properties here, and Fred, the person said, well, I like Eldorado. They have a tennis court, hike, bike pass, horseshoe pits, soccer. Show me another community in the county with the same amenities. And Fred says, there isn't. This is it. We've got to take care of our amenities, all of them. That helps our property values. We've got to sustain those property values and follow the medical advice, which is when you attempt to do anything, think of the unintended consequences, and first, do no harm. Let's do no harm to our property values here. Let's sustain those. That's what's important. And have the board work on maintaining our amenities, keeping our rates low. But also, when we moved here, I asked the real estate person, what are the dues? She said, $200. I figured California, $200 a month? No, it was then $200 a year. We pay very little. We have one of the best organized, I don't call it government, but homeowners associations that I've ever seen. So let's keep it that way, and let's heal the community on this chicken issue and go on to do bigger and better things.
Well, I would agree with what Frank said. I think this is an incredible group and that the community would do well to elect anybody out here. Hold it up. I think for me that what's important beyond what Frank said is that we become a community that is not only in the forefront in terms of using solar energy, which is what we were founded as part of, that we conserve water, all of those things are important, but also that we become known as a community that can work together through divisive issues, not be made fun of for the way that we treat each other and speak to each other, but rather as an example to the world of a group that can come together and figure out how how to resolve issues in a way that everybody feels heard, everybody feels respected, and we come to an end where we don't have to then heal the problems later. In my personal opinion, that's one of the things that continues to be an issue in the world, and I would love to be part of a community where we are examples of doing something differently.
There's one thing that has been brought up here tonight that I feel has to bear some thinking about. And that is, to consider all the wonderful things we have here in Eldorado, and those of us who are property owners who are supporting it, yet there are a great number of people that we come into the area, utilize our facilities, don't pay any dues on it. And I think we should get some consideration of how to handle that so that we can get some fair shake. And other people from out the area utilizing our facilities. Example, pool area is limited supposedly to residents and their guests. Limited number of guests. I know for sure that there are times that there are more than guests that are using the facilities by people that are not in the area. Consideration of some way in which you regulate and control the property who has the rights to utilize facilities.
I know that everybody here cares about our community and wants to work together. I think the fact that people in Santa Fe County comprise this District 50, we actually have 39% of the eligible voters in the district. I think if we get together as a community and work with the political process, that we will benefit greatly, and nobody is going to be writing those silly things about us. So it's up to us to work together and procure our future.
Well, I think our amenities are wonderful and we need to maintain them. I think we need to have diversity. I like having a retired community. I like having a K-8 school, all right here in the same community. We should keep that going. We have probably the best homeowners association that there is. And I think people like to make fun of us partly because they kind of respect and are afraid of us. We are a large body. We are the largest unincorporated area in the state. We're bigger than the town of Taos, New Mexico. And we have a little bit of weight, and I think we should stick together and do the things that will make us all enjoy the community here. This is a wonderful place to live.
So I've really seen the people of Eldorado in the last 4 years get together so much more than I ever saw it before that, forming this community in pursuit of sustainability. The groups that have been formed, like the SPEC committee, is trying to work on a master plan that will hopefully really study the issues, give us direction, and make it official that this is a community like its roots in solar. It's a state with those roots. We're going to continue the solar. We're going to continue other sustainable issues. Melissa Mitchell wrote in to me. She said, many of us are in Eldorado for the lifestyle and focus on sustainable living, simply said. And then it's interesting to think about why people move here and what reasons that people move here. We want to make sure that we maintain those qualities that make us a desirable place to move in. That will help us protect our property values more than anything else. First is our quality school. People don't have to bus their kids a long ways. It's right there. It's a neighborhood school. That's very rare today, and we have an outstanding school. And then the second reason I think is because we've always been considered part of Santa Fe. We're Eldorado at Santa Fe. And we don't want to give people the impression that we are trying to now separate ourselves off into some isolation zone with a different culture and different rules and different lifestyle than Santa Fe has. People move here for the Santa Fe culture, the Santa Fe beauty, the Santa Fe lifestyle. And I think we can maintain and continue that so people will always want to continue to live here. I know I love it here. I've been here 11 years. It's a great place.
In closing, I wanted to just read some reminders of the democratic principle from Robert's Rules of Order. The organization is run with impartiality and fairness. Law and enactment rule the organization, not the whims of the leadership. The majority rules, but the rights of the minority and absent members are protected. I would be honored to have your vote to be elected as a member of our board. I believe I can bring fairness and honesty to making decisions, a good ear and responsiveness to members' concerns, create more explicit expectations, limitations with management and staff, be more responsive with our committees, and I will continue to attend committee meetings as I enjoy very much the aspects of responsibility and hands-on research that each committee brings. I'm a problem solver. I like jumping right in and fixing it. In short, I care. Thank you.
I think we need to realize that fundamentally we all want the same thing. And if we have that belief, then we can easily work ourselves backward to solve any problem. My concern over the past couple of weeks has been that it seems that email and letters to the editor have become the new road rage, where we have lost that personal connection with others, where we don't look in people's eyes to see what the impact of what we are saying is having on that individual, where a personal discussion up front and up close and personal might have solved some problems, where an email might have left that person off the earth for that day. So I look for a time of civility and community. I want to close with a statement from Marshall Rosenberg, author of Nonviolent Communication. Imagine connecting with the human spirit, each person in any situation. Imagine interacting with others in a way that allows everyone's needs to be equally valued. Imagine creating organizations and life-serving systems responsive to our needs and the needs of our environment. And I think Eldorado has that potential, and I would appreciate your views.
I want to thank all of you for coming, and I hope that you were able to find out a little bit more about our 8 candidates. And I want to thank the candidates who have so graciously volunteered to run for the 2 vacant positions on our ECIA board. And I'd like, if the candidates can stay around for a few more minutes, you will have the opportunity, if you want to talk to them individually. And anything that didn't get asked that you'd like, you can ask at that time. So thank you everyone for coming.